Hello everyone, welcome to the third Tunku Zain Piano Trio Composition Workshop. My name is Adam Masumi, one of the composition faculty at the UiTM Faculty of Music. This workshop will be conducted by Mutiara Piano Trio, a trio consisting of 3 musicians and also educators from various local universities, which include the cellist, Associate Professor Dr. Chong Yoong from UiTM, the violinist Dr. Joanne Yeoh from UPM, and the pianist Mr. Yin Hwa from UCSI University. So basically, for this composition workshop, 9 piano trio works have been selected out of all applications from several local universities, namely UiTM, and also UKM. And then for the final 7 best compositions will be selected for a public performance at the Piano Trio live streaming concert. The 9 selected compositions for this workshop are Days of Yore, composed by Choy, Chia, Hsuan, Ants Waltz, composed by Mohd Rizat, The Final Problem, composer Tan Chun Sheng, Hidden Jewel, composer Syafhira, Lillia's Adventure, composed by Haziq Nazhan, Widow, composed by Ammar Harith, The Journey to Tanah Baru, composer Edwin Ying Wang, Tango Fuigo, composed by Tan Yu Kang, and finally Patient, composed by Heng Fuk Wei. Judges involved in this selection process are the piano trio members themselves and Dr. Valerie Ross from UiTM Faculty of Music. Without further ado, allow me to welcome Dr. Chong and the trio to start the session. Thank you.
I think there are a lot of good issues with this piece. It has some very nice, lovely melodies for the cello. And then, there are a few things that strike us as being odd, though. The beginning has all these nice, wonderful melodies, and then the ending is very abrupt, and it seems rather dark, which doesn't seem to fit with the first half of the piece. It seemed like a different piece together. And the piano part sometimes can be a bit strong and overpowering. Luckily, some of these parts are where the piano is a bit too strong. The cello is in a very nice register, so it actually cuts through. However, there's a lot of register overlapping with some of the instruments. So there are occasional balance issues, which is actually does not help with the balance problems, except for the few times when you give the high register to the cello. I think overall we like what you did. The strange parts actually start from rehearsal F, where it completely changes mood, and then the ending is very, very dark and almost strange. Okay. Yes, okay, we can hear you. Go on.
Yeah, thank you for the comments.
Oh. Is there anything else you want to say? Anything? Any other thoughts on the piece that you'd like to share with the audience?
Actually, I wrote this piece and I include the darker tone and the strange part that you mentioned just now is because it's actually this piece is a storytelling piece, and the front part is actually showing a peaceful and harmony image of a village, and the darker part is actually the village is attacked by enemies. So it's a bit odd, I know.
I think there's a lot of, again, some nice melodies coming through. I think generally for these, you could do with more dynamic levels. It's very much, most of it is very similar throughout. And then I think the chords for the piano are a bit too big, and sometimes the piano is too high in the register, so that it creates balance problems. There also needs to be more variety in what the piano is doing for accompaniment, because it gets a little bit monotonous after a while. So also I think the melodic motif that you present here, it needs more shaping and it needs more development, because after a while it seems a bit monotonous and static. Okay, I mean, you present a very nice tune, but you sort of just stay with it throughout with minimal development.
Assalamualaikum and good morning to everyone. Thank you to the workshop for playing this piece, and thank you to Dr. Chong for giving the comment. First of all, I composed this piece in the style of Waltz, and I want it to be easy to be remembered, so I simplify it. This piece is used a fairy tale as its theme. It's basically a story about Anne and her dance. So this music is the music that accompany her while she's dancing. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
So I think the composer has chosen a very interesting format for this, where after being given a time limit for the competition, he decides to break this into 4 mini movements, which we just played 2 of them just now. I think that's a very interesting idea. It may or may not necessarily work for all people, but I think that was his choice to do this interesting idea, and he has very clear ideas and programs for each movement. A lot of the material is a little bit being repeated and so on, too much repetition of the same material. I think we would like to see a bit more development. And there are a few issues here. For example, at the beginning, you basically wrote crotchet equals 80 for this, but the time signature given is 6/8. So I think that's a very strange decision to write that crotchet equals 80. Also, some of the double stops for the violin in the second movement is a little bit strange. So you might want to relook that.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay. Actually, this piece is about the Cello homes. The battle with the sorry, I forget the name. Yeah, it is about Cello homes. Yeah, the final problem. So the first movement is about to introduce Cello Holmes and Watson and Dr. Watson, and the second piece is about to introduce his enemy, the
Moriarty.
Yeah, Moriarty. Yes, yeah. And third movement is the battle on the Rettenberg 4, and the last movement is about the emotion of Dr. Watson and also the ending of this story. So maybe the repetitive I use actually is sometimes I put some like motif into different movements, so it make the character team to bring in other movement. That's all for me.
I think there are some issues that I would like you to work on. Some of the overlapping of notes between the hands that in the piano part could be relooked at. And then also some of the chords. Between rehearsal I and J, that part seems to stick out. It doesn't seem to belong to the rest of the piece. So you might want to review this. And some of the fermata seems a bit inappropriate. Also, the phrases could be need to be more complete because some of the phrases seem to be hanging. The bowing, I think you can also relook that because, for example, in the cello part at rehearsal F, some of the bowing is a little bit too long. It would be better to break into different bows for this. The tempo marking, please also relook this because it seems like it needs to be livelier. And the tempo changes sometimes when they change. For example, at rehearsal I, it's very sudden with barely any preparation. So again, please relook this. Also, E, please look at how this would be less, could be tidier at rehearsal E. The piano also can be less dense so that the strings can cut through. I think overall there were some very interesting ideas, but please relook how the composition of it is done so that it works much better. Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Syafhira from UiTM Shah Alam. First and foremost, I would like to thank the piano trio for playing my piece beautifully and also for the constructive comments. I will look through it again and try my best to improve the piece based on the feedbacks given. A short brief about the hidden jewel. This piece is actually a symbolism of finding the bright side of every hardships in life and was inspired by Felix Mendelssohn's Piano Trio No. 1 in D minor. In order to make the listeners adapt to my imagination and to have a clear understanding about the flow of the piece, I had made it quite like a cinematic music about a group of explorers who are making their way on a quest to find the hidden treasure. This work consists of 3 short motifs. Motif 1 can be seen in letter B, motif 2 is visible in letter D, and motif 3 appeared in letter F. Throughout this piece, more than one key modulations were utilized as I was trying to show the various obstacles that the explorers have gone through by changing the key signature in every section. That's all from me. Thank you.
So this is some of our comments on this. There's a lot of overlapping between the hands and the piano, and then some of the dissonances are a bit questionable. So you might want to relook some of the chords that you have there. I think it would be nice at the beginning to have a clearer indication of what tempo you are expecting because nothing is written there at the beginning there. And the piano texture is a little bit too dense. So I think a less dense texture would help. The string double stops, some of the chords that you're trying to get us to play, actually not very suitable for the string instruments. Please relook that because some of the notes don't work very well on the strings. The ending there is a little bit strange. After such a lively waltz like texture, the ending is a little bit questionable. Okay, so I think there are a lot of interesting ideas, but again, please relook at how this is being composed. Thank you.
Hello. First off, I would like to thank you for playing my piece. I know it's hard, especially for the piano. It is a very demanding piece. So to answer your question, right? Let's see. First off is the weird dissonances. Why I added them, I was trying to color up during the intros, right? I was just trying to color up the harmonical structure using dissonance key. So I think that makes point. And second of all, tempo. Originally should be 120, but I didn't mark during the beginning, and it doesn't just stays 120 in each section. When you progress, there will be other tempo markings. And the overlapping question, I'm afraid I don't understand this much, but probably to answer your question is because in my arrangement for this piece, I don't want the cello to just act as a bass, but also to act as a secondary melody. So that's why you can hear some parts when the cello starts to play as a melody. So it was the reason I did that was to create a more unique melody structure with adding two layers of melody, which is the violin and the cello. So the last one, for my last feedback is it doesn't supposed to end after a lively waltz. There's supposed to be another continuation. The piece actually ends with a different key. So I was a little bit kind of weirded off because you said that the piece ended just right after the waltz, but actually it doesn't. It ends in a different key. I know it's weird, but it does ends with a different key. So you'll understand once you play throughout the end. So thank you. That's only for my feedback. Thank you.
On the piano part, occasionally it seems a little bit too simplistic, but at the same time, when you put chords, the chords become a bit too dense. You can spread it out further. At C and then D, it doesn't. Some of the parts don't seem to blend very well. So I'm not sure whether this is intentional, but it doesn't seem very functional right now at the rehearsal C and D. It doesn't blend. And the key change is a little bit strange. Also, some of the violin bowings are a little bit strange. So please relook that. I think also at D, there seems to be some questionable balance issues where when the strings are playing pizzicato. So for that, maybe you might want to relook at what you're writing for the piano so that the balance works better.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Harith. Widow, like the name implies, is about a woman who has recently lost her loved one, or specifically for this piece that I wrote, is about her husband. She lost her husband. I wrote this piece to show the feelings that she might have felt during those troubled times. For example, the grief and sorrow that is represented in the first few sections, and also the kind of happy and fun memories that she might have when her husband was alive during the later sections. Though I wrote the happy section with awkward rhythms, I wrote it with because I wanted to represent that the happiness is not everlasting, and it was kind of an awkward turn. It's not what it seems to be. It was all an illusion, and in reality, that is that her husband has still passed away, and she must face that reality towards the end. So yeah, that's my piece.
As you can see, this piece has many sections, some with changing tempo, some with changing ideas. Some of the spelling of the chords, how they're being written, is a bit misleading and so on. The piano part also tends to overlap with a lot with the piano and cello register. What you might want to be careful of that is that might result in balance issues. And the piano texture tends to be very thick. You write very extreme dynamics, so I think we have the feeling that you're trying to think in terms of orchestra writing, which can sometimes work and sometimes need to be modified for piano trio. The key signature and the changes, some of it seems a little needs to be relooked at. There are a few questionable spelling of the notes. For example, in the cello part at bar 98, you see natural, after that you put B sharp and B, and then after that you have at 102 and 104 again, there's the notation, it can be very confusing because sometimes you have a C sharp, D, C natural, and so on. It is written in a way that needs to be respelled. And then, like, for example, some of the cello parts at 78, please relook some of the notes because I'm not sure whether it's an accident or whether it's intentional, but it doesn't seem to really fit. Okay, but otherwise, I think there were a lot of very fresh ideas where you're trying to combine different sections and you're trying to create some orchestra textures in the piano trio composition.
Yeah, morning to all teacher performers. My comment is like, it's quite amazing because like when I hear back from the playback from the finale, it's very different from the live performance. So I think it's very great. And then personally feel that the starting is like maybe is it too slow or maybe I need to change the tempo because I feel like not really a lot of moving and then I think the costume part also maybe can be really very surprising because it's like wanna bring out a situation like the people is running away from the gunshot and suddenly you got a bang, bang, bang or something like that. And then I think that's all. Overall, I think it's quite good because my first time listening this piece performed live. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. was a part of Tango Fugo that you all just heard. So now we're going to give some ideas. For this tango, I think you have done a decent job in capturing the mood of the tango dance. However, it's very piano-centered. So the piano part tends to be very dominating. Dynamics are very loud for piano, and the texture very thick for the piano. You might want to rethink how you're doing this, because it becomes a piano piece with a string accompaniment. And a lot of these will cover the cello. To be fair, though, you did write certain high registers for the cello where the cello can be heard. The piano part is, in some pages, is rather high in the register, so it will cover the cello. Now, there is a very questionable notation that this is actually at bar 68, where you have this tie there, because before this you have F sharp in the cello register, and then the key changes is a bit unclear whether you mean for this to continue as F sharp or for the F sharp to become F natural. Then also, I think overall one of the issues that we had is that there's a lot of page turns. So you might want to rearrange your score in such a way that the page turns can be minimized. For example, put more music in a certain page, and then so that the page turns can be done at places where there are less notes or there are lengthy rests in the parts.
Okay, so thank you for the judges and the player for playing my song. I think I also is quite really amazed how it sounds like. Okay, so I think I will look through the judges' comment, I think later on, and try to work on what I can improve. So I would like to share a bit about my inspiration for this piece. So this piece is actually inspired by what I imagine a tango ballroom music will sound like. So like the violinist is being the female tango dancers, and the cello is the male tango dancers, and the piano is the narrator that tells their love-hate relationship. It's like that. And also because that I'm a classical player myself, so I also want to include some very running skills and arpeggios things. So it's very classical inspired for what I think lah. So that's my sharing. Thank you.
Okay, that was Passion that you just heard. It's well written with a good flow. It tends to be very piano centric though, and sometimes the piano part is a little bit too dense. So you might want to relook that. To be quite frank, this is the piece that we had to spend a lot of time working on these, and it's very problematic to put together. But once it clicks together, it's actually very satisfying to listen to. But you might want to relook some of the balance problems. And also, a lot of these things are a little bit vague. I think some more directive information would be nice, because, for example, at the beginning, there's no indication on how you should play this other than play with passion, and no dynamics given. It's basically do whatever you want, up to you, and so on. So I think this would be better with clearer instructions rather than just do what you want, because I don't think this is chance music. So it needs to have clearer directions.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Yes, good morning. And thanks for playing my composition. yes, it's beyond my expectation. I mean, what I think, and I try to write, and what you play for my composition is kind of totally different in terms of the tempo wise. I think because I'm not sure about the score indication because I did drop down some of the certain tempos, so I'm not sure about that. So some of the parts are meant to be slow, but however, it's slightly faster than what I expected to be played during your performance. And I also noticed the coordination of the certain syncopation. And thank you for spending more times in working out the piece for me. But I quite enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you.